everybody, and welcome back to VFX Mage, where today we're going to be talking about the conclusion to the mid-season finale of Cobra Kai. So let's start off with the obvious. The biggest twist in the entire mid-season finale is Tori joining Cobra Kai once more. As a foundation for the storyline, this is essential and it was a necessity. I knew from the beginning of the season, one of the Miyagi kids had to join Cobra Kai. It was an ultimate necessity, and the reason for this is because right now at the beginning of the season, the Cobra Kai students are not at all related to having a conflict with any of the Miyagi kids. There's nothing personal. They are a mindless big bad, which historically in filmmaking and in TV series has not always made for the best villains. Some of the best villains think that they're the hero, and if they don't think they're the hero, they have some connection to our protagonist to move the story forward and make conflict and difficulty in his life. So there is that idea that you have to have a connection with your villain and your superhero, no matter how small it could be. I mean, even in movies such as Spider-Man Homecoming, we have the Vulture, and when there's really no connection between Spider-Man and the Vulture, it's not as intense, right? Spider-Man's just taking on a bully of his neighborhood, which is perfectly fine. But it isn't until you have that scene in the car and you have Vulture and Spider-Man and they have this connection through Spider-Man's then at that time semi-girlfriend is when you really get that conflict. You really get that, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? So the same thing would happen here in Cobra Kai. You don't have that oh my gosh moment. It's also, I think, a reason why the writers brought back Reese. Reese had to be an obstacle for the senseis of Daniel and Johnny. And yes, Johnny and Reese have more of a conflict because of the mentorship that they had in a father and son type of relationship. But this is also the villain from the first Karate Kid movie that did help in the torment of Daniel. So there is, like, all his hatred for Cobra Kai comes from Reese. So there is still a lot of connection there. Unlike the current sensei for Cobra Kai, which is the female character. Yes, there's a little bit of conflict, but honestly, Johnny has no relation to her, therefore making Reese the better sensei to be that connectional villain to. So that's why I do believe they brought Reese back. Reese is kind of an essential big bad even for their final season. It makes complete sense that if you want Johnny and Daniel on the same page, creating a unity, you have to give them a unified enemy, and that is Reese. However, the students of Miyagi-Do blended in with Cobra Kai's ex-members, you then don't have conflict with them. Their nemesis in the other team are non-existent. They're literally from another country. They've never met these people. They know nothing about them. So I knew early on in the season they had to have a villain. Now, because of my love for Tori, I did not want it to be her. I'm gonna say it straight out. I wanted someone else. I loved her growth. I loved her character. I definitely did not want her to be the Queen Cobra, as she is nicknamed in the show. However, looking at all of our other options, she's kind of the most logical person. So one of the first people that I thought might be the villain who stays in Cobra Kai, and they kind of set it up for like 2 seconds and then like, nope, we're not doing that, which is my one critique of this half of the season as it felt very rushed, but you kind of had to rush it to give that twist at the end. So I understand it, I get it. But with Kenny, you kind of had him where he's like, oh no, I'm Cobra Kai through and through. And they were gonna like set him up to be the villain, but they don't. And it's one of the reasons is he doesn't really have a rapport with Reese, which makes sense. He doesn't have kind of a rapport with anyone other than Robbie, LaRusso's son. And so that is quickly dissipated. He makes up with Robbie because of his brother, which is, again, that was such a quick thing, like, how dare you abandon like I told you to look after my little brother and you didn't. And then he's like 2 seconds later, a scene or two later, going like, you know what, man, maybe Robbie was right. Maybe you should go to Miyagi-Do. I don't like the way your Cobra Kai knowledge is going. Which, I mean, did he not spend any time with his brother? Is my logic with that. But either way, that gets resolved. So there's really not an issue with Kenny and Robbie. And honestly, I've never cared about his rivalry with LaRusso's son. That's like just a sideline story that I've never cared for. So Kenny joining Cobra Kai actually has no impact and no faculty of like suspense and real weight to it. So for that reason, I definitely understand why the writers didn't go with him. The other one that I strongly believed would go to Cobra Kai and up to the twist, up to Tori's meltdown, did I think that it was going to be her, was Deven. Now, the only reason that I do believe the writers did not go the route of Deven is she has no connection with the Miyagi students. In other words, she sees herself as a rival to Sam and Tori, but they don't. Tori and Sam only see each other as rivals and equals. So yes, it would have been a shock. Yes, it would have been like, oh my gosh, we gotta step up our game. But it'd be more like a unified force going up against an underdog. It just doesn't make sense. There's no real suspense to it. You're just gonna assume Tori or Sam is gonna win. And you don't even bat an eye to Deven moving to Cobra Kai. Also, her relationship with Johnny, I think, would destroy Johnny because he has always supported her. He's always had her back. He's tried to help her in every way that he can. So the same relationship that Deven and Johnny have is kind of the same as Reese and Tori. So because of that, I think that it would have been a bad idea to have her be the villain, but it did seem like that's what the story arc was kind of leaning towards at the beginning of it. Getting those two out of the way, those were the only two Cobra students that I thought would go over to Cobra Kai. The other ones have already had their arc, have already had their like mean person view, and I'm talking about the four, right? We had Miguel be Cobra Kai and he's been Miyagi-Do. Robbie has been both. Sam has had her mean girl era, which I don't think has ever gone away. I don't like Sam as a character. Personally, never rooted for her, never liked her. I think she has the same hubris that Daniel has. She thinks that she's perfect and can do no wrong, and time again has hurt the people in her life because of her selfishness. So I definitely think she's a copy of Daniel, and for that reason I don't like her. Now here is why Tori was the best and honestly only option as the villain to go to Cobra Kai. She affects all four of the main Miyagi students, and in large she affects both of the senseis of Miyagi-Do. Her impact changes audiences' views. If you are a fan like me of Tori, you want her to beat Sam fairly, because as it is stated in the season, Tori and Sam do not count their fight as Tori winning. Both of them think that that was tainted. So this next match that is coming up against them will be an honest to goodness who will win honorably. And both of them, honestly, Tori has more at stake than Sam. Sam is just Sam, in all truthfulness, has no core reason other than she grew up with karate, that she has been impacted by karate. Now, comment below if you disagree, if you're such a Sam fan. I am not, so I am honestly kind of blinders on when it comes to Sam. But to me, the only reason that she's in karate is because she's had it her whole life and she knows no other life. And to me, that's not motivation enough to be a champion. And later on in this video, I will say what my predictions are for the season finale of Cobra Kai. So stick around for that. So when it comes to Tori, she has the most impact on both the characters in Cobra Kai and the audience themselves. And by that, I mean us as the audience. If you are a fan of Tori, you want Tori to win the women's champion. However, you don't want Cobra Kai to win because they're set up as villains. Unless you're pro Cobra Kai and you don't care and you still want her to win, then cool, you're on your team. But if you are like what is set up as the majority of the audience, you either want Tori to win but don't want Cobra Kai to win, or you want Sam to win and now you see the true obstacle that she has. So as kind of the audience, you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen now? Are they really gonna let Tori win? Because then that would mean Cobra Kai wins. Or are they going to let Sam win because Miyagi-Do has to win? So it is that what if, it does bring conflict. Now let's talk specifically how that conflict portrays in universe in set time. One of the biggest obviousness, and the moment that I knew Tori was 100% gonna go to Cobra Kai, there was no ifs, buts, or anything of it, was when Daniel had her stop her match and you have Johnny fighting for Tori to fight it out emotionally, let it out, and Daniel just being like, no, that's not the Miyagi way, you don't understand, like it's all about peace and love. And him not understanding not every student is the same, and some people need to let it out on the mat so that they don't let it out in real life and actually hurt somebody. Because at the end of the day, Tori, as distraught as she was playing by the games. She was playing a little bit rougher than maybe she should have, but she was in all playing by the rules and had a referee as Johnny to make sure that nothing goes too far. She was basically in the safest environment that she could be to let out all of her emotions that she had for her mom's death. And because of this, if she had been let to continue and fight, then it would have worked out and we would have had the Miyagi way within Tori. So I knew from that moment she had to go to Cobra Kai. Now I don't like that the story arc is like, oh, she's out, like as soon as she walks off that, plane, she's like out. I'm like, did she say she was not gonna compete? Like, there was no saying of that. Y'all just said stop the fight and she stormed out. Like she may have needed a minute. Y'all just like, oh, she's out, we gotta pick a new person. Oh, it's gonna be Hawk. Not saying that I don't like that Hawk isn't going, because I wanted Hawk to go. I thought it was only fair. Again, another lesson for Daniel and Johnny. That one more was a Johnny lesson, where in fighting for Deven, he then caused Hawk to not go to the championship, which gets resolved by Tori leaving Miyagi-Do, which again I have mixed feelings about, but I did know that Hawk had to be one of the people who goes to the championship because that affects Robbie's story. So Robbie's story is that he's lost to both Hawk and Miguel, and in doing that he has never won a championship. So I believe that it was only fair for Hawk to go to the championship so that Robbie can beat him. So that was the lesson kind of Johnny had to learn, was that every decision you make, whether good intentioned or not, has a consequence. However, Daniel still had to learn that same lesson, and the way that he did that was by having Tori go to Cobra Kai. So being so set in his ways, so like, this is the Miyagi way, he then created who was already an ally, a great ally, a strong ally, into an enemy again, because he was set in his ways, because he thinks he is right, because Miyagi way is the Miyagi way. Even though we as the audience have seen, especially in things like the next Karate Kid, that Miyagi has had things in his past that he is not always so proud of. He has, whether or not outright said, has maybe crossed the line here and there. He was a soldier in a war. There are things that happen. There are things that shape people and change them forever. I honestly think Miyagi would have let Tori fight it out. I think he would have seen that she needed to, and it would have been the safest place possible. And another thing is, like, he did that with Daniel. Daniel was so upset with Johnny in the first movie. He wanted to fight him. He wanted to go head to head with him. And it was Miyagi who was like, no, you're gonna do it in the ring. You're gonna do it where it counts, where he cares about, which is these tournaments. Like, that's the only reason Miyagi even agrees to let him compete in the tournament, is so that it's a safe place for him to let out his anger. So it is very frustrating and annoying that Daniel did not realize this as an adult and let that happen for Tori. So of course she had to then become a villain. Like, it was the only way Daniel is going to learn from his mistakes. So that was inevitable. Another thing is his relationship with Johnny, in that Johnny had Tori in Cobra Kai, understood that she was probably the best that understood Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. I think Tori is the best because she learned both versions in order to become a better fighter. And I like that she's always taken everything that she learns and makes it her own. I think it's one of the most enduring, and I think what makes her truly a great fighter is because she fights not because she wants to or this is what she grew up with, but it's to survive. She fights to survive every day and to better herself. And in doing that, she learns all types of karate. And she may not always pick it up well, but when she does, she becomes a master at it. And that is something that Johnny has learned through his set, is maybe it's a combination of both, right? Like, Daniel has made him a better sensei. You know, the Miyagi way and the Cobra Kai way, it's a really good balance, and I think getting a little bit of both could really shine. And Johnny was having that in Tori. I honestly believe that he was like so excited as, you know, her old mentor, as someone who really saw that she was the embodiment of both dojos, as a strong candidate for, you know, being captain of the women's team or winning the championship. And yes, he may want her to succeed, but at the end of the day, he does not want Cobra Kai to succeed. So he's kind of like torn between that. I don't think he's as affected as like other characters, but he's still in the mix, right? Because it was one of her students that came to the Miyagi-Do way, which is always great. Now, when it comes to Johnny's son, Robbie, that's his girlfriend. That's the person he cares about. From the very beginning of the season, you have them saying, you know, they want to go at this together. They want to be a team. And that's kind of where you get that foreshadowing, that hint that she might go to Cobra Kai. But I was really hoping that they wouldn't do that, that it would just be kind of an internal rivalry between the two strong Miyagi couples, but that ended up not being the way. So it's kind of a fine line where he does want to be supportive and he wants her to win and succeed, but she's on the opposing team, and kind of that opposition, like he can't cheer on Sam over Tori, but he can't cheer on Tori because she's in Cobra Kai. So I don't know how they're gonna see him deal with that, or they're just not going to have any conflict with it and he's just going to be the supportive boyfriend no matter what team she's on. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there's going to be a little bit of conflict in there just because he's been on that side and he knows what a mistake Tori is making. But it's a mistake that I do believe is essential and necessary for this final season. And that's kind of in a similar way how Miguel might feel and whether or not he has a conflict with it or not, or if he would be afraid that Robbie might then feel inclined to go to the Cobra Kai side. I do know that there was a closeness with Miguel and Tori, and there was a kinship. And I mean, throughout the beginning of the season, they did want Sam and Tori to be friends so that all four of them can be friends and be like this superpowered team. So I can definitely see how Miguel might have a conflict with it. I don't think they're going to touch on it. I think you already have Tori have too many conflicts with too many characters, but I think her and Miguel's friendship is just going to be swept under the rug, which is perfectly acceptable for the amount of episodes that we have left. Now, the biggest reason that Tori becomes a villain, not really a villain, but joining Cobra Kai is, of course, kind of a necessity, is because you knew for the championship, her as captain of Cobra Kai and Sam as captain of Miyagi-Do, they would have the big televised finale. And for this reason, and I believe this reason alone, they would then have a rivalry. Now, you do have Sam, in which she has now become fast friends with Tori, be conflicted and maybe a little bit nervous of which version of Tori she's going to face in the finals. Whether it's going to be the ruthless Cobra Kai opponent that she's always known and always fought, or maybe worst of all, is her newfound friend. Her friend that she is connected to and she's related to, and the only person for some miracle that has made her see that she's the villain of the story. Yes, Sam is the real villain of the story. If you want a video on that, I'll happily do it. I am very pro Sam is a villain of Cobra Kai. 100 different reasons. But Tori's like the only one that's ever gotten her to see that. And then that actually takes me back, that scene takes me back to another way that Johnny could be affected by Tori going to Cobra Kai is he very much wanted Sam and Tori to be enemies again so that they would push themselves to be better versions of themselves in the tournament. And in doing that, he may have fractured one of the few friendships that could have made her stay with Miyagi-Do. So it's still a lesson for Johnny as well. I think it's a bigger one for Danielson, personally, and for Sam, because she doesn't know which version she's gonna have. And I think the scarier part would be is she faces off against her friend that is hurting, that needs her help. And will that let Sam go easy on her? And knowing that that's not what Tori would want Sam's best and nothing less than that. And also knowing the pressure that Sam has, that even though she may want to help her friend through this tough situation, is that she does not want Cobra Kai to win, and she is facing off with whatever version of Tori is always going to be a competition. It's always going to be a challenge, but one could possibly endanger Sam greatly, which I don't think is ever a Tori we're ever going to get. I think they've solidified their friendship. I don't think they would ever fully hurt themselves, but I don't think that they would hold back within the rules. I do think that if Reese asked Tori to do an illegal move or physically hurt Sam so that she cannot continue, as he has done in the past, I do think that's when Tori would say no 100%, and then that's kind of when it would be a line of whether she lets Sam win so that Cobra Kai would not win, sacrificing her glory for the overall arc of the show, or whether or not for some weird reason or story plot reason they get her back on Miyagi-Do side, or have her wearing both uniforms. I don't know how they're gonna do that. Such a conundrum in having her be the villain. I understand why, as I've explained through this video, but as a Tori fan, I want her to win, and I honestly don't care if Cobra Kai gets the victory or not, because that's Daniel's fault, and I don't like Daniel. Don't like Sam either. So for me, as a biased party, Tori's gonna win season finale of the female championship. 100% believe that, truly, wholeheartedly. Now what they could do, the twist that they could do, is they could have Deven beat out Sam, and then Tori and Deven either trade places, like Deven goes to Cobra Kai and Tori goes back to Miyagi-Do, or they just fight it out. Which again, I don't think we'll have that climax battle that they really need and want, but it does help Deven's arc because she sees both of them as rivals, but I don't think there'll be enough of a conflict for that to be a thing. So for that, I don't think that they're gonna do that. But what I do think is gonna happen, and here are my predictions for the finale of Cobra Kai, is that Robbie will win the men's team because he is Jude, 3rd time's a charm. He is taking down both Hawk and Miguel. I do believe that, without a doubt, and he will be the perfect person to take on the captain of the Cobra Kai team, which I don't think will be as suspenseful as it will be with his fights with Hawk and Miguel. And then for my predictions for the female characters, I definitely believe Tori is gonna win. Whether she does it under the bannerment of Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai is yet to be determined and completely up to the writers, but I truly believe she will win without cheating, without any compromise. She will just win. I don't think Sam will win. There's no benefit to it. There's no lesson learned. And in all honesty, she just doesn't want it as much as Tori does. And I think for Sam, she will realize that karate is not a must. It is not a survival thing as it is for her friends, but more of a hobby. And maybe she'll realize, yeah, she doesn't have to be the best to be happy. And this is just a fun thing that she gets to do with her friends and a way to bring teamship and happiness. It's something Hawk has learned from the guy's side, and I think it's a lesson that maybe Sam would be best suited to learn. And it gives a reflection of an audience member, of someone who's just always been part of the team, maybe a really good part of the team, but that the sport isn't everything to her. And I think Sam would definitely be the best character to show that. So if they do that, I'd be actually pretty happy and maybe forgive Sam for all her horribleness, which they are trying to redeem her a lot in this season. So I do give them credit for that, which makes me kind of worried that she's going to win. But I believe that they've set up Tori's backstory throughout the series itself, not just this season, but previous seasons, to give Sam the win is just going to be, I think, personally a disappointment. So I don't think they're going to go around that route. I think they're going to go the route of Tori winning. And let me know if you guys agree with me. If not, we'll find out in November. November! That's just so much time. So much time to ponder, so much time to theorize. Let me know. I know this is a little bit different than the stuff we normally do, but all in all, these are my theories for Cobra Kai. These are my thoughts for why it was inevitable that Tori be the villain of Cobra Kai. Not that much of a shock, but it does make an impact, and that's what's important. For all things visual effects and a peek behind the curtain of all things movie magic, please don't forget to like and subscribe to VFX Mage. I'll see you guys next time, and comment down below for your thoughts of Cobra Kai.